Some people go to the doctor. Others wake up one morning, stare into the mirror and think, you know what my body needs? A treatment so catastrophically stupid it could qualify as a cry for help. And somehow, against every law of biology and basic judgment, they walk away alive, usually with a bill, a bandage, and a story no one believes on the first try. Because if you think modern medicine is wild, wait until you hear what people do before they involve an actual professional. This is just the warm-up. The real disasters are still ahead. 1. I once read about a guy who treated his migraine by taping raw onions to his temples overnight. Apparently, he believed that if onions can make you cry, they can also, through some reverse emotional osmosis, pull the pain out of his skull. So there he was, lying in bed like a discount medieval shaman, eyes burning, head throbbing, and smelling like a burger station employee who lost a bet. By morning, his migraine was still there, but now he also had minor chemical burns and a strong desire to avoid grocery stores forever. And the best part? He told doctors the onions sort of helped, which is code for, I refuse to admit I wasted 8 hours marinating my own face. Humanity, 0, produce aisle, 1, 2. Then there's the legend of the man who decided that if hot tubs make muscles relax, then boiling himself slightly would heal him faster. This genius cranked his bathwater up to lobster red levels, climbed in, and instantly learned that pain doesn't scale linearly. It skyrockets like a crypto scam. By the time he staggered out, he looked like a rotisserie chicken that wasn't quite done spinning. He claimed he did it because heat therapy improves circulation, which is technically true, but only if you're not recreating a witch's stew with yourself as the main ingredient. The ER doctor reportedly told him, "You cooked your buttocks," which is a sentence that should never need to exist outside a barbecue competition. A woman once tried to cure seasonal allergies by shoving lavender oil up her nose with a cotton swab. Not around it, not near it, directly into it. Her logic was, if lavender is calming, then her sinuses would be so relaxed they'd simply stop being allergic to the universe. Instead, her nasal passages staged a rebellion so violent it should be taught in history classes. They swelled, burned, and immediately tried to expel the intruder, which, by the way, had migrated way farther north than cotton swabs were ever meant to travel. She arrived at the clinic smelling like a candle shop explosion, insisting the swelling proved it was working. If painful inflammation is the metric, then yes, it absolutely worked. 4. My personal favorite is the guy who treated a sprained ankle by wrapping it in plastic wrap and blasting it with a hairdryer. He said he read online that heat speeds up healing, and in his mind, that meant cooking the injury like leftover lasagna. His foot emerged glistening, swollen, and somehow both sweaty and crispy, which is an impressive contradiction. When he finally saw a doctor, he explained the method with the kind of confidence usually reserved for cult leaders and astrology influencers. The doctor had to inform him, very gently, that he had not discovered a revolutionary home therapy. He had simply invented human sous-vide, and not in the fun culinary way. 5. Someone once tried to cure hiccups by drinking an entire bottle of apple cider vinegar in one go. Because yes, what better way to handle a mild, temporary annoyance than to nuke your esophagus, like you're trying to remove the lining entirely? He claimed he wanted a natural cure, which is ironic considering nothing about chugging acetic acid is natural unless you're a particularly confused fruit fly. The hiccups did stop, but only because he was too busy gagging, crying, and reconsidering every life decision that had led him to this moment. He later described the experience as powerful, which is technically correct. Industrial solvents are also powerful, but we don't pour them into our faces. 6. I once heard about a woman who tried to fix her back pain by taping magnets to her spine. Her reasoning? Magnets realign energy. Whose energy? What energy? Where is this energy stored? Doesn't matter. She bought a $40 magnet kit from the internet, so obviously it was legitimate. She arranged the magnets in a neat little spine-shaped constellation, like she was auditioning for a role as refrigerator woman. The pain didn't go away, but she did discover that metal chairs now made unsettling clinking noises when she leaned back. She insisted it was still worth it, because maybe it prevented other problems. Like what? Becoming non-magnetic? 7. There was a guy who attempted to cleanse his organs by drinking salt water until his body tapped out like an amateur wrestler. He read about detoxing and apparently took it as a personal challenge to desalinate himself from the inside. After several glasses, his stomach rebelled, gravity betrayed him, and he spent the next several hours revisiting every bad decision he'd ever made, violently. The ER nurses told him he had essentially recreated the world's saddest electrolyte imbalance. He nodded and said, "But I feel refreshed now," which is a sentence you can only say when your brain is still rebooting from survival mode. 8. A man once attempted to cure a cold sore by pressing a hot metal spoon against it. Because what is a blister, if not a perfect opportunity to sear your own face like an amateur blacksmith? He heated the spoon over a candle, always a promising start, and applied it directly to the problem area. The cold sore obviously did not appreciate being sautéed, and neither did the surrounding skin. He later explained that he saw a video of someone doing it quickly, but forgot that quickly was the operative word. The spoon stuck. Peeling it off became its own separate medical event. Congratulations, sir. You turned a cold sore into a full-fledged dermatological crime scene. 9. One woman tried to detox by drinking nothing but lemon water and cayenne pepper for a week. It's the kind of cleanse that sounds healthy until you remember the human body is not a haunted house that can be purified with spicy citrus fog. By day 3, she was shaky. By day 4, she was hallucinating conversations with her blender. By day 5, she looked like she'd been living in a post-apocalyptic bunker. When she finally returned to normal food, her body reacted like a dog seeing its owner come home after 5 years. She insisted the cleanse worked, but the only thing it successfully removed was her will to live. 10. A man tried treating his sleep problems by taping his eyelids shut. Not gently, not medically. He used packing tape, the kind that screams when you pull it off a cardboard box, which should have been his first clue. He figured if his eyes literally couldn't open, he'd sleep great. Instead, he spent the whole night blinking against a tape seal like a malfunctioning animatronic. In the morning, he ripped the tape off and accidentally removed half his eyebrow, which solved exactly 0 sleep issues, but did create one very concerned dermatologist. He still swore it helped a little. That's the sound of pride losing a fistfight with science. 11. A woman tried treating acid reflux by swallowing whole cloves of garlic like pills. She claimed garlic neutralizes acid, which is fascinating because it absolutely does not do that, and has never once done that in the history of garlic or acid. Within hours, her stomach was reenacting Pompeii. Her breath became a biological weapon, and every bodily system she had filed a complaint with management. She arrived at urgent care smelling like an overachieving pizza oven, insisting the method was holistic. Yes, holistic in the sense that it caused problems in her whole body. 12. Someone once attempted to treat a mild rash by applying toothpaste to their arms, like they were icing a cake made of regret. They read online that toothpaste dries things out, and apparently thought their skin should experience the same conditions as a sidewalk chalk drawing in July. Instead, the menthol burned, the chemicals irritated the rash, and their arms emerged looking like they'd been in a romantic relationship with a belt sander. They told the doctor they didn't understand. If toothpaste works for pimples, why not a rash? Because, my friend, skin is not a one-size-fits-all appliance. It's not a multi-purpose countertop. It's not grout. It's just tired of you. 13. A man tried to fix constipation by drinking 3 liters of prune juice in one sitting. Not a glass, not a cup. 3 liters. Enough to hydrate a camel or punish a digestive system into early retirement. He waited 10 minutes before announcing it wasn't working. Then, about 20 minutes later, the reckoning arrived. The man triggered an internal event horizon so intense it should have been named and documented by NASA. By the time he reached the ER, he looked like he'd aged 5 years and seen God. When asked why he drank so much, he said, "I wanted fast results." Oh, he got them. Everyone in a 5-mile radius got them. 14. A woman once put sliced potatoes in her socks to draw toxins out. This trend pops up every few years, encouraged by people who apparently believe their feet are USB ports for poison extraction. She slept overnight with soggy vegetables strapped to her soles, woke up, saw the potatoes had turned brown, and concluded her body had expelled impurities. The doctor had to explain, slowly, that potatoes turn brown when exposed to oxygen, not when absorbing evil spirits from her ankles. She nodded thoughtfully, then asked if sweet potatoes worked faster. Humanity continues its battle against edible science. 15. A man decided to treat a cough by inhaling steam from a pot of boiling water while leaning over it with a towel on his head. A classic technique, except he leaned too far. The steam hit him like a humid freight train, and he nearly face-planted into the pot like he was trying to reenact a pasta commercial gone wrong. His nose and upper lip got steam burned. His towel caught a hint of fire, and he learned the timeless lesson. Home remedies are safe only if you possess the motor coordination of an adult and not a concussed penguin. He said the cough improved afterward. Maybe it did. Pain has a funny way of distracting you from other pain. 16. A man once tried to cure his chronic fatigue by slapping himself awake every morning with a frozen steak, because apparently nothing says holistic wellness like assaulting your own face with beef before sunrise. He claimed the cold increased circulation and the protein somehow transferred energy, which is a bold scientific stance considering he was essentially trying to FaceTime with a T-bone. The end result? The steak thawed. He smelled like a butcher shop at noon, and the fatigue stayed exactly where it was, sitting proudly in his bloodstream, unimpressed. He later told a nurse it was better than coffee, which is what people say when they desperately want their bad decisions to mean something. 17. A woman tried treating her anxiety by lying on a bed of uncooked rice because she saw a photo of monks resting on beds of nails and thought, yeah, same thing. It was not the same thing. She spread 20 pounds of rice on a yoga mat, laid down, and instantly discovered that rice behaves less like supportive spiritual hardware and more like tiny judgmental knives. She described the sensation as sharp relaxation, which is not a thing, and insisted she felt calmer afterward. Of course, anyone would feel calmer after escaping a grain-based torture device. Monks train for decades. She trained for maybe 3 minutes and walked away with dotted skin that looked like she'd angered a pixelated deity. 18. There was a guy who believed coconut oil could fix literally anything. Dry skin, joint pain, heartbreak, existential dread. So naturally, he began consuming it by the spoonful every morning, not cooking with it. Eating it like it was pudding, made in the devil's crock pot. Within a week, he developed digestive issues so dramatic they could have had their own theme music. When doctors told him his intestines weren't built for a tropical slip and slide, he looked genuinely shocked. He insisted he felt detoxed, which is one way to describe losing your internal stability like a corrupted video file. He still swears by it, because nothing bonds you to a bad idea quite like suffering through it. 19. A woman thought she could cure dizziness by spinning in the opposite direction, which is one of the most impressively backward applications of logic I've ever witnessed. She'd get lightheaded, then twirl like a malfunctioning ballerina, trying to counteract the Earth's rotation. Shockingly, adding more spinning to a dizziness problem didn't fix anything. Instead, she ended up throwing herself into walls, tripping over a rug, and arriving at urgent care with a bruise in the shape of her own doorknob. When asked why she kept doing it, she said, "I figured it had to balance out eventually." Yes, because the human body is basically a washing machine. Absolutely. 20. A man tried to treat chronic stress by screaming into a jar, sealing it, and burying it in his yard like emotional toxic waste. He said that trapping the energy would stop the stress from affecting him, which is a beautifully poetic idea right up until you realize it's also completely insane. He had several jars hidden around his property like cursed horcruxes of frustration. When one shattered in the summer heat, he interpreted it as old stress escaping, not as clear evidence that glass expands in warm weather. His therapist gently suggested more conventional methods like breathing exercises, but he said that felt less scientific. That's where we are as a species. 21. A woman once attempted to boost her immune system by standing barefoot on her lawn during a lightning storm, because she read an article about grounding and immediately sprinted past the part where it said not to do it during, atmospheric warfare. She said she wanted to absorb Earth energy, but what she nearly absorbed was several million volts of electricity and a surprise trip to the afterlife. Neighbors watched her standing in the rain like a Victorian ghost cosplaying as a weather antenna until someone dragged her inside. She later told the EMTs she felt electrified. Yes, that's called danger. 22. A man tried curing his stomach cramps by drinking warm beer, claiming it was an old Viking remedy, which is hilarious considering Vikings also believed in sea serpents and solved interpersonal conflict with axes. He warmed the beer on his stove, chugged it, and immediately discovered what happens when you mix alcohol, heat, and a digestive system already waving a red flag. His cramps got worse, his regret grew louder, and he spent the night hugging the toilet like it was a long-lost lover returning from war. When the doctor asked why beer, he shrugged and said, "It felt traditional. Tradition is not treatment," but he wasn't ready to hear that. 23. A woman tried to fix her insomnia by blasting whale sounds directly into her ears through studio headphones. Not softly, not atmospherically, full volume, as if she was trying to summon a marine mammal through sheer auditory force. After 2 hours of violent ocean songs, she didn't fall asleep, but she did end up with a ringing in her ear that lasted 3 days and an unexplainable feeling of mild anger toward aquatic life. She claimed the experiment was promising, which is the kind of optimism you only hear from people who are one step away from Googling, "Do whales understand gratitude?" 24. A man attempted to treat a sinus infection by sniffing boiling herbal steam, while his face hovered dangerously close to the pot, because apparently his goal was to breathe deeply while auditioning for a role as human lasagna. The steam burned his nostrils, fogged his glasses, and introduced him to an exciting new world of accidental facial scalding. When he finally backed away, his sinuses were still infected, but his face was now glowing red like a malfunctioning Rudolph. He claimed the pain meant it was working. Sure, by that logic, walking into a cactus also improves circulation. 25. Someone tried to treat acne by rubbing fresh lemon juice on their face every night, apparently forgetting that lemons are not gentle skincare. They are chemical warfare disguised as fruit. After a week of nightly citrus exfoliation, their face looked like a tomato that had been personally insulted by the sun. At the dermatologist's office, they explained they wanted something natural, and the doctor had to clarify, very politely, that natural doesn't automatically mean safe. Earthquakes are natural too, but we don't rub those on our faces. They nodded, then asked if limes were gentler. 26. A woman believed that drinking aloe vera straight from the plant would heal her digestion. Not the bottled kind, the straight-up leaf goo, scraped out like she was preparing a smoothie for a lizard. Unfortunately for her, aloe in unprocessed form is a laxative on a level that borders on spiritual. She took a full spoonful, smiled proudly, and then spent the next 2 hours negotiating with her own plumbing like it was a hostage situation. Her stomach did not heal, her trust in houseplants did not survive, but she did say she felt cleansed, which is one way to describe a Category 5 internal evacuation. 27. A man tried to strengthen his eyesight by staring at the sun for a few seconds each morning because he read somewhere that sun gazing clarifies the mind. It clarified something, all right, mostly the sensation of burning retinas. He'd squint upward each day like a malfunctioning solar panel until the headache started and the blurry vision followed. When a doctor told him to immediately stop, he said, "But it feels energizing." Of course it does. Your body is panicking. That's adrenaline, not enlightenment. The sun is not a vitamin. 28. A woman attempted to soothe her sore throat by swallowing crushed ice mixed with cinnamon powder, forming a concoction with the texture of spicy gravel. She said she wanted something cooling but warm, which is not how physical sensation works, but physics was clearly not involved in her decision-making process. The ice numbed nothing, the cinnamon burned everything, and she ended up coughing through what sounded like a miniature sandstorm. When asked why she didn't just use tea, she said that felt too basic. Yes, basic, yet somehow less likely to simulate swallowing peppered hailstones. 29. A man believed he could sweat out toxins by wrapping himself in 3 layers of plastic wrap and jogging around his neighborhood in the summer heat. By the time he finished his first block, he had essentially converted himself into a slow-moving crock pot. His body overheated, he nearly passed out. and a concerned neighbor called an ambulance after witnessing what appeared to be a large human burrito collapsing onto someone's lawn. He later bragged that he lost 2 pounds. Yes, they were called water and dignity. 30. A woman once attempted to stop a nosebleed by stuffing her nostrils with black pepper, because she'd heard pepper stops bleeding, which it absolutely does not when inserted directly into the problem. She sneezed so explosively that she nearly launched herself into the counter, and the nosebleed instantly became a much larger nosebleed. When she arrived at urgent care, the nurse asked what happened, and she muttered, "I read it online," which doctors universally recognize as a warning that the next 10 minutes will be unbelievable. 31. And finally, a man tried to lower his blood pressure by meditating inside his running car with the windows closed because he liked the warm, cozy air. The warm, cozy air was exhaust. Within minutes, he felt dizzy, lightheaded, and proudly assumed the meditation was working. Thankfully, someone found him before he achieved enlightenment via carbon monoxide. When paramedics told him what happened, he said, "So I shouldn't do that again?" And they had to resist the urge to respond with interpretive dance. Sometimes survival is less about medical knowledge and more about pure cosmic luck. And there you have it. A full parade of medical decisions, so baffling I'm honestly impressed the human species is still upright. If you think you've witnessed something even dumber, drop it in the comments so we can all question reality together. Pick your favorite disaster, vote for the champion of bad ideas, and if you somehow survived this video emotionally, go ahead and like, subscribe, and prepare yourself. The stupidity only gets weirder from here.